owning some bitches. I'm just kidding. I like all of them. I'm glad they put them in.
I got a dock.
I know, when I fish it all the time.
You're 1 minute late.
They beat the buoys out there to death.
That's because that one old crappie fisherman's got a big old pile of brush on 2 of them.
Well, see that dock next over? That's my in-laws.
Oh,
That's my in-laws. That's Mitzi's mom and dad's house.
really? I didn't know that.
It's loaded.
Well, we're supposed to be live. Haven't seen it yet. Showing up on you yet?
Not so live.
Yeah, let me know when it is. It's saying we're live. Yeah, you see us yet? Or you see the screen? Well, let's see what we got going on here, shall we?
Yeah, it's all delayed, but
Yeah. Not much. Didn't think it was that bad. Well, let's roll on. You showing it on your end there? Nothing, huh? There it is. It'll come. So we are live here tonight on Facebook Live. Welcome to Real Unfiltered Talk. I'm James Bryant along with Dion Hibden. Now you're going to be my tech guy today. Let me know if you can hear it, okay? So you can turn the volume up. It'd be okay. Let me know. I've got my right-hand guy over here, or on my left, actually. Two-time world champion Dion Hibden, along with our featured superstar guest, the has-been,
The old guy.
the never will be, Mr. Jody Hughes. Jody, how you doing tonight? Good to see you.
Good.
That's it? Just
That's
good?
it. Good. I'm glad you invited me.
Now, see, we've talked about this a long time. When you come on the show, it's unfiltered, and when people go up on stage and they say, how are the fishing conditions, and they say they're good and they're tough, we don't buy that. So how you doing tonight?
I'm doing really, really good.
Have a cold
Got a-
beer.
got a
in your-
cold beer
Got a
here.
cold beer in your
That's right.
hand.
Can't beat
Everything
it.
is good. Dion was pissy about a incident he had at tournament last weekend with some 12-year-old kids, which sounds really bad right now, but that's
Yeah,
not really what I meant.
You made it sound really bad.
That made it sound bad, but no, he was
I was on the side of the 12-year-old.
defending a child.
That's right.
How's the sound tonight? Can you hear it? Is that better? Yeah. All right. I think we might have it fixed this time. So anyway, welcome aboard, everybody. We are Real Unfiltered Talk. We are a little fishing show, kind of spin it up. A little background, we have Jody Hughes, our guest tonight, and Jody is a retired water patrolman from the Missouri State Water Patrol. He is a licensed guide, and he is a tournament bass angler. So that's a little background. Why don't you give us a little more background about yourself, Jody?
Well, I actually grew up down most of my life down in southern Missouri around Forsyth and fished bull shoals and bought my first bass boat when I was 17. And I got into the fishing down there and ended up being injured in an accident. And a water patrolman came by and saw me in the hospital and said, you got to apply for the water patrol. And I was like, well, why in the hell would I do that? And he's like, well, you know how to drive a boat and you're always on the water, so I think you'd make a good officer. So I applied, and from there, that was back in 1980, and we were supposed to know something by the 1st of December, and about 10 days maybe before Christmas, I got a call and said, if you want to be with the Water Patrol, you need to be at the headquarters on January the 13th. And that was in 1980, and that's when it started. And I came to Lake of the Ozarks, and I spent almost my whole career here at Lake of the Ozarks until I started moving up through the ranks, and I was the captain here finally at Lake of the Ozarks. And then I was promoted to the field major, and I moved to Jeff City and worked out of our general headquarters. And then I finally retired in 2012.
That's it. Now, I will say, when you retired, you were number 2 in command, right?
Number 3. There'd
Number
be a
3.
Colonel, a lieutenant colonel, and a major.
So you were the third from the very top, and it was the office job, right?
Right. What my job was as a field major was to oversee daily operations for the whole state of Missouri.
And you're responsible for the merger, correct?
No.
No,
Didn't
okay,
have
sorry.
anything to do with that merger. No.
For those that don't know, the Missouri State Water Patrol did merge with the Missouri State Highway Patrol in your tenure, your final year.
In 2012.
Yep, and which has turned out to be sorry, in my opinion, I won't speak because I want you to make sure you get your retirement check, but it's a total poop show. Thoughts on that, Dion?
Goat roping. Yes.
Goat roping. I think that's what you would call it. But yeah, it's a bad deal. We see the Highway Patrol bringing their rules and the way they operate to the water, and it hasn't been a really good blend over the last, how long have you been retired now, 10 years?
Yep, 10 years, 2012, so really, 12 years. I mean, their priority is the highway. It's right in the name, Highway Patrol. And the Water Patrol is just a division of theirs. And, their priority is going to be with the highway. It always has been since they were basically organized, and that's how they're going to be. And the Water Patrol, it's kind of just a branch of them, and they get by with what they can do.
Right. And I'm not speaking illy. They do what they can do. It's just, it's kind of like the guys that just float around the lake a little bit, and the highway's a little more important.
Yeah, well, and it's tough to keep officers on the water, because once they're on the water and they spend the whole summer out there getting beat around in the boats, the rough water and the weather and everything, and then they're put in the car in the fall to work the highways. Well, if I'm going to do both, I might as well just do the one if I can, and that one is the highway.
My new term for that is Lake Ozark lumbar. You ever heard that one?
I haven't.
That's when you get banged around so bad. Every water patrolman that's ever retired has a bad back, and I'm sure you do too. Yeah. It's called the Lake Ozark lumbar. But you guys ran in what was called, and still I think to this day, coolest boat I ever saw in my life. Remember those old gray cuddy cabin little runabouts they had? They were called cobias. You remember those?
That was about the first best boat we ever bought. Was Cobia.
I love those little boats, man. They were super cool. But if you ever saw them coming in a black suit with some big bars off the side, getting ready to drag for a body, and that was a bad day on the lake right there. Bad day on the lake.
Hey, water patrols came a long ways, because when I started in 80, I was in an 18-foot Mark Twain with a 135 outboard, and the interior was black. And I mean, on a hot summer day, you felt it.
Oh, yeah, totally. So one of the reasons we had you on the show tonight, and I don't know if you've seen the show yet at all? Or
Yeah.
Okay, so you know our format.
Yeah.
We talk a little biz, and then we talk about a little industry news, and, not a lot happened this week in the industry. We had some tournaments.
Kind of a quiet week. Yeah.
Kind of a quiet week. Not a lot going on. We're not going to spin on the last couple of weeks. You don't want to talk about, everything's been happening in the industry, but you got any cool things you've heard that's out there in the industry? Because I
thought last weekend was crazy. I mean, there was 17 tournaments, I believe, just here at the Lake of the Ozarks. There was boats everywhere, and I know Dion was in a big one, helping out with the young kids.
Yeah, I can't see how. It's amazing to me. You were talking about a boat patrol. I would not want to be a boat patrol on Lake of the Ozarks. I mean, just for all the bass boats. I mean, let alone all the big boats too. I mean, it was a crazy weekend last weekend. It seemed like every direction we went and tried to fish, there were just boats and boats and boats. And I drove over to Larry Gale and put in at Larry Gale.
I'm just throwing stuff around. Don't worry about me.
And they were parked clean up the highway. I mean, it was crazy. Tried to go put in someplace where I thought it might be a little quieter, and it was worse. And big tournament going out of the Gravois, big tournaments going out of PB2 plus, 380 kids, fishing. It was just big time, crazy.
It was worse, and big tournaments.
You hear that?
What'd you do? Did you break something?
180 kids.
No, I got feedback coming up on my damn phone. Trying to listen to it at the same time.
But anyway, my hat's off. My hat's off to the boat patrol, how they keep their beans about them, because it would be a nightmare to try to control. I mean, control everybody. And I realize that you can't. You just do the best you can. But still, it just so many people out there running around, and like saying, this isn't even the busy time yet.
No, it's not. I mean, you're right, because I fished the tournament Saturday, and I was going out of Kaufman, but I thought I'd put in at Shawnee Bend and just boat over. Well, our tournament didn't start till 7, so I thought, I get out there at 6 o'clock. There'd be plenty of room. They were parking on the grass already at 6 o'clock, and I bet there was 50 boats at the ramp already in the water.
Yep, it's crazy.
It's very, very busy, the lake is.
But do you think that because we're all a little bit older, that maybe that we're a little bit crabbier? Because it's always really been busy, but the fact there's less ramps, better access, more people are piling in the same areas. I mean, think that's it, or think you're just being crabby?
I don't think I'm being crabby. I mean, I'm a pretty nice guy overall.
Well, here's your.
But I mean, you just think about that. No, it used to not be this. There's more and more bass fishermen now than I've ever been around. I mean,
recreational, local, regional tournament anglers.
Right here.
Yeah, you used to be able to fish a tournament though out of Kaufman, and it wasn't nothing to run from the Gravois to PB2 to fish.
Yeah.
On a Thursday nighter, which is only from 6:30 to 10. You try to do that now, you won't make it back probably.
Right. So
it's so rough.
Do you think the state's going to come in and start regulating tournament entries at some point?
I doubt that. I mean, as long as they've got enough facilities here to hold the boat trailers and the traffic and the boaters, I don't think that'll affect it. But it's a big boost to the economy at the lake here. It's massive. I mean, you think of motels and food and gas and tackle and just everything else that was needed. That's a big boost to the economy here.
Gotcha.
Lawson just went to Logan Martin Lake, and I fished down there a ton over the years. And he said there's a brand new launch ramp that Alabama just put in up there, and he said I guarantee it will hold 500 boats. That's crazy. 500 boats and trucks and trailers. And that's, we're starting to see that. Oklahoma, Grand Lake out there where the Classic's out of. I promise you could have 1,000 boat tournament out there and everybody have a place to park.
There at Wolf Creek?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just getting bigger and bigger, and really, like I say, or like you said there, it's good revenue. I mean, that's a lot of gas, a lot of fuel getting spent on Lake of the Ozarks and bass boats, and stuff like that. So it's great for the economy. It's just hard on us old guys to see it.
Yeah.
Right. And we've had some feedback online too. Plus, you got to factor in all the kayak tournaments too.
Sure, absolutely.
You've got kayak tournaments, you've got bass tournaments, you have boat tournaments, you've got, not to mention pan fishing tournaments on top of that you don't see, crappie and such. And when they have the the carp invitationals down here, it's going to be a whole nother ballgame too. So that's coming. At least that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to have a carp tournament. I think it'd be super badass. Like anything goes. Get your best, wheat germ and marshmallows and strawberry pop soda mix. And you ever made your own carp bait?
Absolutely. That's how I started fishing.
Get you one giant stud and bring it in. Yeah, super fun. Super fun. I don't know what you do with all the dead fish was done because nobody want to eat it.
Hey, that's what we used to catch when I was little up north, and we canned them. That's what we did with them. And we used Wheaties, made dough balls.
I had drum tuna once. That was really disgusting.
Yeah, you can score them and eat them. There's nothing wrong with eating them.
I always heard you boil the meat, then all the bones would float top, and you skin them off with a net. And still gross.
I saw people cook them on a grill, put butter in them and lemon, and the meat will just fall off of the bone.
Well, we're not going to get into a carp discussion. I actually had you here tonight for a reason. I had some good subject matter I thought we'd talk about this tonight. And no, you're not an authority on it. But you've had a lot of experience with it.
But as in most of our shows, we've lost our way.
We lose our way, yeah. I mean, last week we talked about pooping. We had do you have a good poop story off of your boat?
Of course he does. Of course he does.
Got off of my boat, I don't.
Just checking, because that's where we go on that. So I don't want to go there this time. But, yeah, there's always a story. Anyway, tonight I wanted to talk about boaters etiquette and dock etiquette and how fishermen should perform on the water around dock owners and vice versa. And I think it's a good subject matter because 2 weeks from now there's going to be 6,000 boats on the water. And the Big Bass Bash is coming to town, plus whatever we have else going on. And I think it's a good time to talk about because you have seen some stories. You've been a part. I know a story that happened to you once. I think I did at least. Did you have a guy shoot over you once while you were fishing?
He didn't shoot over me. He shot over another guy that was in the tournament with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went and showed up.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just some crazy stuff. And I kind of wanted tonight to talk about a few things. I actually had some questions emailed in on it, which I don't know the answer, and maybe we don't. But the first question and the most sought after question that I want to ask both of you is dangerous weather. Now, we all know that on our Lake of the Ozarks, docks are privately owned, correct?
That's correct.
So, and then we can also all agree that the water underneath that dock is public waterway. So, legally, you can fish around any dock on the lake without permission, anywhere you want to, without any reservation, right?
That's correct.
When we have severe weather, lightning storms, severe wind, is it or is it not okay to pull into a private dock to seek shelter?
The law that they just passed last year about supposedly not being able to fish within 100 feet of a dock, that's how everybody took it, which is not correct. You can fish around the dock as close as you want. It just says you can't stop egress and egress. If they want to get out of their boat slip and go, you can't be in their way. But that same law, it does state that if there is severe weather, that you have the right to take safety and you can use that dock.
See, you did research. You said you didn't. You researched.
No, I know that law because I saw it in the local newspaper here, and it was wrote wrong. It said you can't fish within 100 feet of a dock.
Right.
And
what it says, you can't block boat traffic from coming in and out of that slip.
That's all the law says.
Correct.
You can fish as close as you want to their dock, and I mean, we got a lot of stakeholders here. I understand they own their property, they own that dock, and they've got property, boats, stuff stored in their lockers and everything, and they want to protect it. So just courtesy. I mean, if I was a bass fisherman and I live here at the lake and I've got a dock, and I know your father does too, and I mean, if I throw my lure up there on the dock and it gets hung up, I mean, I'm going to go get it. And I would think the dock owner would want you to, because I don't want my grandkids going down there and accidentally stepping on a hook and then me have to take them to the hospital.
Right.
So, but no, you can get into a dock, a slip. And matter of fact, I know I was fishing with a guy on a Thursday night, and we left after the weigh-in, and I mean, a storm hit us like you would not believe.
Was that you and I?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I looked, the waves were coming over both sides, the front and the back all at once, and I said, we got to get to shore, because I thought we were going to sink the boat out there in the middle.
I remembered a little differently.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because the lightning and the wind was blowing so hard that I didn't realize that you didn't have full control of the boat. It was literally spinning us around.
It was crazy.
And Jody looked over to me at the time, and I thought to myself, this guy's a career water patrolman, you know? I mean, he's traveled through this stuff all the time, no big deal. He looks over me and he says, and I quote, "I think we're in trouble." That's what he said.
It was.
Yeah,
it was bad.
He said, "I think we're in trouble." And at that moment, I went, "Do what?" And so, and we couldn't see either side of the bank. We really didn't know what direction we were going. So he just hit the throttle, and we found a dock and jetted right into it and set it out and rode it out for about 10 or 15 minutes. But,
yeah, 10 minutes it was gone.
But I was totally cool with it until he said, "I think we're in trouble." And at that point, I'm like, holy crap, maybe we are, you know? But yeah, I mean, but that's like that's a voodoo stretch. And, you know, and I know we have a lot of people all over the country that watch the show live and they listen to it on Apple, but in Lake of the Ozarks, there's an arm. You can go to Google Maps, you can look at it. It's called the Gravois Arm. And there's a stretch from the mouth of the Gravois about 3 or 4 miles down. Man, it can catch some weather.
Wind.
It's a magical spot. You know what I'm talking about? It's from the island going towards Mill Creek. That stretch right through there. You've seen it. You've ever caught stuff in there?
Sure.
It makes that bend. It comes up and it'll eat your lunch. It's crazy. There's a spot up by State Park on Truman Lake does the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a stretch right there before that straight. So crazy stuff. So we've covered inclement weather. You guys happy there in the crowd? Okay, you got that one answered. All right.
And I mean, a lot of it, the whole thing about between boaters and dock owners, it's common sense. We're not building rockets here.
Yeah, but here we go. Welcome to Real Unfiltered Talk. A lot of people don't have any anymore. You know, fishermen and dock owners alike, they lack the common sense. And let's be really honest, a lot of people are pretty angry all the time. So they're looking to pick a fight before it ever starts. So, which is going to get us to the next point. And I guess we'll play the good cop. Who wants to be the good cop, bad cop guy?
I don't care.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to be in defense of the boat owner, or do you want to be in defense of the boater?
You know, I've
Because you're kind of I think you're going to be one of those guys going to argue, because I think you're probably a butthole when it comes to being a boater.
I've had some
confrontations,
some incidents, you know, over the years. To say I've had any that I didn't get myself talked right out of, really not. I mean, you know, just like you guys just explained right there. You know, I've thrown my bait out there. I've got it hung up on a dock, and I've actually gotten out on the dock and went and got it. And if somebody says something to you, all you got to do is explain, just like what Jody said. Hey, I don't want to leave that hook on your dock, you know, because you're out here walking around bare feet. You know, yep, I made a bad cast. The wind caught my bait. You know, it did fly up on your dock. I'm sorry, but I'm going to get my stuff because I don't want your grandkid getting a hook in it. You know, and most of the time they calm right down. You know, when they understand, okay, they're not screwing around with my dock.
Sure. Okay, so.
But you have some people that are, you know, a little bit more abrasive than that, and sometimes it comes to, okay, you just got to talk it out. You know, and if you can't talk it out,
you know, and I don't want to pick on a certain type of boater, but what has brought a lot of that on is not the bass fishermen; it's the crappie fishermen.
Right.
A lot of the lake homes here.
You can pick on them. They're the worst.
Well, a lot of the lake homes
They're
here
the
are
worst.
summer homes. So in the wintertime and the fall, there's nobody at these homes. So a lot of the crappie fishermen, they fish vertical, straight up and down.
Yeah.
So they'll get out on a dock so they can do that. Bass
They'll
fishermen
walk a
don't.
dock.
Yeah.
They'll tie up to the outside of a dock.
Exactly.
While homeowners are even there.
Yeah. A bass fisherman doesn't usually fish vertical, so he's not going to get out on your dock and be fishing vertical for a bass.
And boaters, just so you know, that's a no-no.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a no-no. You can't tie up to somebody's dock, and you can't
get
out and walk on a dock without permission.
That's correct. And the deal about it with the docks, a dock you can't trespass on.
That's right.
Because a dock is considered personal property. It's just like your car. You can't trespass on a car. You can tamper with it, but you can't trespass. And that's why they made the law, because a dock is not stationary. It's movable. So there was no law really to stop somebody from getting on a dock because you can't arrest them from trespassing. You can just get them for tampering, which is useless basically.
Right.
So that's why they made this new law about you can't get on someone's dock.
Okay, so those were the easy ones. So
Good.
we're going to keep going into this a little bit more. So I think there's an unwritten boater etiquette that we don't talk about as fishermen that I'm going to pick on the fishermen some more tonight. I think that if you get permission to crappie fish a dock, for example, I don't think that gives you the right to bring 7 of your friends and go back and harvest out the dock. I don't think you should do that either. I think you should be selective. If somebody gives you permission, I don't think you bring everybody every week and continue to harvest that dock. So when they come for the weekend, there's nothing left for them and their family. I think there has to be a balance a little bit. Or do you think that the fishery is going to replenish itself every time? It's not a problem.
I think fish.
We can argue.
I think
it's
fish will
okay.
move in, but my thought on that is when I get permission to go on somebody's dock, I'll ask them if I can bring friends.
Sure.
If they say yeah, but most of the time I'll only bring 2. But I mean, if they say no, I won't bring anybody. I mean, I've got a marina that I fish off of, and he's told me, yeah, I don't mind if you bring a couple with you, but I don't want you down here all the time, and I don't want you when season starts when the boat customers come down. So usually about middle of April, I don't go at those docks anymore because I know his customers are down.
Right.
And even in the winter, if I drive down to the docks and there's a car there and there's somebody on the dock, I won't go fish off of that dock. And most of them even know me because I used to keep a patrol boat there.
Right.
So, but I still, I don't want to infringe on them. I mean,
I think the rule is don't overstay your welcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Common sense. Holy crap.
We have to
Just
discuss
use
it.
common sense.
We're having this uncomfortable talk tonight because it's kind of like tithing in a church. The pastor wants to go up there and he doesn't want to talk about it. You have to give to the church, but they have to give that speech every now and then. So tonight's night, got to give you guys the speech. Don't be dumb.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I guess we'd say, what would Jamie do? Jamie, he don't do that.
Reverse the role.
Okay.
If I wasn't the boater and I was the dock owner, how would I want it to work
Well,
out?
it's kind of like my dad. I'm gonna pick on my dad. 'Cause he's gonna be watching later and be really mad about this. My dad will yell at everybody for waking his dock, but then when he's fishing,
in a boat,
he's plowing. Yeah, he'll get in there in the 50 yards and he'll plow, and I have to reprimand him a little bit. I'm like, you got to shut her down, man. People are yelling at him. He's like, oh crap, I didn't know. Sorry, because we kind of don't. When you're shutting down and trying to get back to a cove, you run a little hard.
There was an area we used to have problems with boats or coming close to docks, and the people were always calling. So I'd sit there every once in a while. So I wrote a few warnings and I wrote some tickets out. Well, I was sitting there one day, and here's this jet ski, and they even have a buoy, and the boats were going between the buoy and the dock, which that's easy. That's a no-brainer to figure out how close you are. And here's this jet ski, and he is just buzzing around this buoy 100 miles an hour and running back and forth and everything. So I pull up to write the ticket. Well, the dock owner comes down and says, hey, that's my kids. Hey, I don't care who they are.
care who they are.
The law is the law. It
Yeah.
don't apply just to tourists or your neighbors. It applies to everybody.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's how you have to look at it.
Okay. We good on that one?
I'm good. Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
so I think, moving on forward to the dock etiquette situation, I think that if you're fishing, recreational fishing, tournament fishing, whatever, if you come up on a dock that's a good dock that you like to fish, and there's a family fishing on that dock, what's the rule?
I would move
What's
on.
the unwritten rule?
I'd just move on.
You fish it, don't you?
No,
Just kidding.
not really. Not really.
It's like, hey, excuse me,
You
get
know-
out of the way. I got to catch that fish in there.
I have had that situation.
Right.
I've had it a couple times in the Bassmasters Classic when I was leading the tournament. Pull up and there's a whole crew standing on the dock. Guess what? All you got to do, you just got to move on. There's not a hell of a lot you can do about it.
But you know what?
But if they knew what was going on and they knew the situation, 99% of the time they'll get the hell out of your way.
That's right.
And-
or you go around the dock, they'll stop you and they say, hey,
Yeah.
there's a good brush pile right here. You're more than welcome
Yep.
to fish it. But I think if you roll in there, get right on top of them, and use that, hey, it's everybody's lake line,
That's right.
it doesn't start this conversation out well and doesn't end well on either end. Agreed?
I agree with that, but I also got the other attitude that if I'm fishing a dock and some guy sees me fishing a dock from his house and he comes down and he turns on the sprinkler or he starts up his motor to rev it up to stir up the water where I'm fishing,
Right?
or
Chuck's big rocks out in the water.
which he's harassing me.
That's right.
And that is a law, conservation law, that you can't harass.
Harassing a sportsman, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
As long as I'm not violating the law, he can't harass me.
Right. So, homeowners, yes, that kind of stinks, but You can't run people off away from where they're fishing. You can politely say, hey, I got kids coming down. You're probably not going to stop them anyway. They've already made up their mind, but just be courteous to what they're asking. Don't get into a pissing match, because there's some well-known places that we all know, there's well-known places where people will come down and attempt to assault you. And it becomes an inside discussion amongst anglers, like, hey, stay away from this. I'm not going to mention names, but like, I think it rhymes with boat me scare, but it starts with a tree like oak. You just got to stay away from places like that. But yeah, that's just one of those things that happens, and you kind of have to give and take on both ends a little bit. I'm not saying, like you said earlier, I think crappie fishing is the baddest reflection of how to act on docks here, on this lake. But
and we're back, and I'm not trying to pick on the crappie fisherman, but a crappie fisherman will pull up the dock and he'll stay there. A bass fisherman, he's not going to just sit on that dock unless it has to really be loaded, because he'll fish it and he's going to move on.
Exactly.
But I mean, crappie are such a schooling fish, and that's the key to it. And I think that's why the crappie fishermen, when they find them, it's a school of crappie, and they'll sit there and they'll catch them one after another. Right.
So maybe it's a guy thing, maybe it's a girl guy thing, but I'm going to move on to kind of another dock etiquette subject. And I hate to bring up bodily function stuff, but I have to bring it up again tonight. Okay? We have to have the discussion about urination. It happens a ton. Guys have to go to the bathroom when they're fishing. So I guess the question is, what do you do? How do you do it? And what's the repercussions if you do it in front of somebody else?
Because if you have to do it, you need to make sure nobody's around.
And the reason I'm going that for quite some time at the lake, and I think they changed the law, but before, if you horsed it out to go to the bathroom and somebody saw it inside you, you actually had been registered like as a sexual offender, right?
Yeah, at one point, indecent exposure.
Yeah, indecent exposure.
You could be,
and that was a bad deal.
It was.
They modified that law a little bit, but that still doesn't excuse that people still are doing that. And I guess this is my little lecture tonight. Find a quiet cove. Find a pocket. Turn your back.
Pull up to a bluff where there's no houses and face the bluff. Don't face out the other way. I mean, and like Dion already said, it's common sense again. I mean,
but
you stand in your front yard and pee as cars drive by.
Yeah, but he pooped in front of people, so he can't really get in this conversation.
Bobby Sullivan from down at Table Rock, one of the nicest men you ever wanted to be around. And he got put on the sex offender list because he peed out of the boat on Lake of the Ozarks.
Right. He did, and I remember that. And it was a lady that made a complaint, but on the behalf of the Water Patrol, we're caught in a rock and hard spot.
Oh, yeah, you got no choice.
We got somebody peeing in front of some women on a dock, and these women, they're barking up a tree, and they want something done.
Yep, and it's the way the law was written. It was unfortunate, but that's how it is. And like I said, they have modified that law now to where they made it, I think, a misdemeanor, not a felony.
Right.
So, but that still doesn't excuse an angler just to freely go to the bathroom in the lake, even though it's kind of it's a here or there. You can have every recreational cruiser that says I have to have my poop pumped out, and you guys can just freely pour it into the lake. And people with septic tanks say that I have to have a septic tank, but you guys still proceed to do this. So
there's I'm sure there's raw sewage that gets dumped in the lake pretty regularly.
Oh yeah, I agree. But it's another common thing that we have discussions on quite a bit. And I just want to have that discussion tonight as we move into the busy season. Those are things that we all discuss, and there are things that are going on.
Yeah, lots of people will carry a bottle with them. They'll pee in the bottle and just pour it over. I mean, that's,
Yep. I know people who pee in the live well and then pump it out because they can't catch fish. The rest of us have fish in the live well, but, you can keep one side open, I guess. Splash well works well. You can pee in the little splash well behind the motor, kneel down, do that, but,
Well, on your pooping story, I guess, between the motor and if you got a power pole is a good place to score.
We talked about that last week. You got to hang it off the back, but that way you don't get seen for just horsing off the side when everybody on the bank is watching. But that's a totally another story.
And in this day and age, not that you're going to get arrested for it, but man, all these docks, a lot of them have cameras on them. So if they're not standing on the dock seeing you, they probably got a video of you doing it, and that's even worse, maybe.
So I'm going to defer this one to Dion now. Let's talk about structure placement.
Yeah.
So we all love to put brush in the lake, right? Is it okay to put a brush under somebody else's private dock?
I think you got to be careful. And when I say that, there's lots of times that I ask. I'll say, hey, you care if I put a piece of something under your dock where you can't swim around it?
Right.
And when I explain to them what I'm going to do, most of the time they're like, yeah, sure. What's it going to hurt? But if you just go to sneaking around and doing it, yeah, you're probably going to get in trouble.
Right.
I'm
going to be honest, Dion, I don't ask. I'm respectful of swim docks, slides, where it looks like people swim. But I look for docks that don't have a lot of fishing action on them, because you can place brush there where people don't normally fish. It's one of those things we talk about.
But if I do that, I'm going to put it under it.
Right.
I'm going to take, I got a painter's pole with a hook on it, and I hook my pilot brush on, and I stick it back under the dock,
slide it
where
in.
Nobody's going to jump in on it or something like that.
But you're not getting out on the docks.
But I'm not getting out on the dock to do it.
That's there was a viral video out there where that happened, where some guys that got out of the dock and put it in the slip and hop back on. No harm, no foul, but it's.
Which there's no way they could have fished that brush pile in front of that hoist and everything unless they got out on the dock anyway.
I guarantee you that dock had slots in the foam where they could skip it in between the foam.
They might have done that.
Because they had probably thought about that before, and that was put through there. Well, they're friends of yours, so you probably told them to put it there. So
Probably.
I don't know if they're friends of yours or not. I'm just picking on you tonight. It's all good. Was that?
I can throw my stuff a long ways, and that's why I pride myself in the fall. If you beat a Hibdon in mid-September to mid-October, you got your work cut out for you, because we put stuff where people don't throw at it.
That's right.
And we put it where we know big ones live. But still, we ask. There's lots of times that we ask. I'll get out on dock, walk up to the house, and say, hey, you care if I put a piece of cover under your dock?
That's right.
and if they say something, and no, we don't put one there.
Yep. And if you want to go back and look at some of our older episodes, you and I had a structured conversation. We had a whole show on it. And you can talk about what types of, you can go back and look, I think it was our first episode actually, wasn't it on structure?
Yeah, one of them.
First or second, but we talked about what works best for bass, what works best for crappie. And, you can talk to a homeowner and say, what do you fish for? If you like that, I'm going to put some wood over here for my bass fishing, but I'll gladly stick in some stuff for you for crappie fishing too, if that's what you guys do. And I think that'd be a win-win for everybody. Of course, you put it on the other side, but.
I talked to your dad last week, and he'd spent the whole morning putting in crappie beds for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's a service that we do here at the store,
right,
to help, draw fish to your dock.
Well, that, and we're poor, and we have to go out and do that because it's
sure.
not a lot of people do that.
Well, unless it's changed,
$20 is $20.
Unless it's changed, I think that if you get a community dock, I think it's 8 slips. It used to be. Ameren requires you to put in a certain amount of brush.
And anything over 8 docks, every other slip must have the appropriate brush in it for fish habitat.
It used to be that way when I was working.
I'm pretty sure it still was too, because we had some back in the day. We had some people who had put in new docks that required to do that, and they contract us to go out and put synthetic brush in for that. And there was some pretty specific requirements. It was like 6 foot by 7 foot by, and it had to be specific.
Current guys over there in Osage Beach that on all those big condo docks and stuff, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they actually put in habitat.
That could fall into our tip of the week, Dion.
There you go.
If you want to go fishing, with permission, don't egress, ingress, don't block any slips, but every other one typically should have some brush in it. So, that's a good place to go and check it out. And if you want to find some fish, that's the easiest way to pattern to get started.
It's a mandatory deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
it
like for every so many slips, you have to put in a piece of habitat.
Right.
So. Yeah. And the way they check, 99% of the time, the way they check, they hang it. That way, if Ameren shows up to check, they can grab a hold of their rope, pull it up, there we go.
Yep.
And so when you see those little ropes hanging off them docks and stuff, that's a pretty good spot.
My mind skips off, and I'm like, when I get bored with the conversation, because it's getting old now. We've almost covered it all. It's really.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't you think? Yeah, I mean, we got it all. I think we get it. But it made me start to think about Ameren, and you did a stint with Ameren for a little bit.
Yes, I did.
Checking buoys, I think.
No, I actually took around their representatives, and we checked the shoreline, which is in their regulations, for any development or building that was going on within their boundary.
Gotcha.
And then their representative would check new dock permits to make sure that they matched the permit that was sent in.
It's a boring job. You're the chauffeur.
I was the driver.
The
And I would
driver.
do some writing for them and take notes and so on, and then give it to them so they can have track of it. But we idled the whole shoreline from one dam to the other. Every shore, every pocket, every cove, you name it. I did that for like 6 years in a row.
So where my mind's going with this, have you either of you seen the new internet craze here at Lake of the Ozarks of the little pontoon boats that are solar powered running around?
Just what I saw on Facebook.
Have you seen that?
No.
So there's like is it what, 10 foot long? Maybe 6 to 10 feet long. It's like a double pontoon.
Like a little kayak.
It's like a little kayak. It's solar powered, and it's either doing geographical bank study or 3D structure scanning of the bottom, and they're all over the lake. And everyone's reporting them like it's an Easter egg hunt. It's like, I have one in my cove, and they just putt along and work in and out between the docks, and they're measuring and reading and doing it everywhere.
Huh.
And I've went online and looked, and they're all over the country. And it's not alien technology. I think it's just somebody's doing either somebody is contracted to do structure scanning for better integrated mapping, for sonars and graphs, or even topographical for like GIS services for real estate, because we're down below, here in Missouri, we have what's famously called the winter drawdown, and that's where the dam actually lowers the lake several feet, so you can do repairs. I think they kill algae also. I mean, I've heard that story. We had a zebra mussel crisis at one time. They left it really low for a while to try to kill all the shells off, and it gives everyone a opportunity to do those kind of repairs. Mm-hmm. I encourage everybody to make rock piles and let me know where they're at. Mm-hmm. But also, there's also a phenomenon called the Memorial Day Miracle. The Memorial Day Miracle, where this lake miraculously fills up again. Did you know that?
It's usually full by that day.
I think it's almost like an unwritten requirement. And that's the time when everybody gets out on the first holiday weekend of the lake, and there's trash, wood, timber, and everyone gets busy fixing lower units. Because that's what happens. So then Ameren, of course, does shoreline cleanup to clean up the wood so they can do that again, and this vicious cycle begins. Comments?
It's an amazing deal. And it always blows me away that a Memorial Day or a 4th of July weekend, how much fiberglass is floating out there on the water.
Right.
And when you go to talking about stuff getting tore up, how is it not non-stop boat tow out there towing people in and broken stuff? And I mean, because it's so hard. It's so hard on my body. You know, I drive the biggest bass boat you can drive. And it's so hard on your body to try to get out there in that stuff. Right. I mean, I forget what the average size boat is now on Lake of the Ozarks, for these boaters, but it's went up every year, almost every year. And it's, you have to get a bigger boat just so you can enjoy yourself, but it's just so crazy how many people show up here on those big weekends, and it's like, say, a few floating logs and stuff. No, I can't believe there's not floating boats in pieces and stuff. As many boats as there is out there running around. My biggest fear is how everybody goes in and out of these little coves. And
we mean too fast?
Yeah, too fast, and I think it's almost got to end up like a highway at some point in time when you're entering traffic and stuff. It's just scary to me to watch. We fish points, so we fish at the mouths of coves a lot of times, and we fish main lake points and stuff. And it just terrifies me the way people run in and out of those coves really, really fast, and there's traffic going the other direction too. And
well, you never know what's going to be on the blind side of the point coming out.
No.
You just assume you can roll in there. But.
And 99% of the people that you see, they don't pay no attention.
What's up with and I know the answer. I just want to bitch a little bit. What's up with the wakeboarders that choose the smallest cove they can find to wakeboard? Did you notice that?
Because it's all calm except for the wave they make.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I mean, they can pick a bigger, wider cove. They always pick the skinniest, smallest one in the world and go back and forth, and I just want to bitch about it.
I don't know, but it's my understanding they're coming out with a boat that will make a massive wave right now. I guess it was down at Florida at the
like
boat show or someplace.
Wake?
Yeah, this thing is unreal, I guess, the wake it's going to make. So everybody can get prepared.
And it's not
It's like a wake boat, but it's just making twice the size. It's going to be a surf wave.
It's not going to affect the bass fishing. We all know to just suck it out, ride it out, and go back and fish some more. But the dock owners are going to lose it. They're going to lose it.
Absolutely.
Because now they're going to snap pictures and they're going to turn it in for a wake damage, which I believe you can now.
You can, but that's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, I've got a dock that sits on the water and it's been there for 10 years and it's been in rough water for 10 years. All of a sudden, a little boat comes by, makes a wake, and it breaks the ramp.
Right.
Well, yeah, did that wake cause it, or those other 100 million waves I've had this last couple of years
It's just another struggle to be a dock owner.
But I mean, but we're back to that common sense. I mean, people slow down. Some of these boats, when they slow down, makes the bigger wake. Yeah. And they don't realize it.
Gotcha. This doesn't count, but I'm just going to throw in my shameless plug tonight. My shameless plug, I'd like to thank Robert Floyd, who is my daughter's boyfriend, and he works for Anheuser-Busch, and every once in a while we get some drink tickets. So thanks for bringing the beer. So it was great. So I'm going to throw that in there real quick. Want to talk a little fishing while we're here? Because we kind of like to do that. Jody does fish.
Try.
He's still guiding a little bit?
I still guide a little bit.
Gotcha.
I do a lot more of captaining a boat for bachelorette parties and bachelor parties than fish, though. A lot simpler to do, too.
Pays better, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's just way too simple.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what do you like to fish for? What do you prefer to fish for?
Crappie or bass is my main two things I fish for.
Best time to fish to year? Best time of the year to fish?
When they're biting.
Come on now.
When they're biting. Because crappie time, I really like the winter, and I like the spawn. Here in April is a good time to fish for the crappie. After April, the first week of May, I won't mess with the crappie again until next October, November. Bass fishing, I struggle in the winter.
Right.
I like, as soon as they get off the spawn, I'm ready to go.
I don't think you really struggle. I always put people on the spot, and I'm like, hey, tell me a secret that you do that no one else does you'd like to give up tonight. And you probably won't. But I know one.
Oh, I'll tell you a secret.
Let's have it.
I was struggling catching some fish, and I came in the store, and Dion was working. I said, Dion, what do you catch bass on up that river part of the Lake of the Ozarks? He said, you need to throw a little short blue flake worm, like a paddle tail or just a straight, like a Cinco. Mm-hmm. Well, we fished mid-lake, and the first day we came in with 8 pounds and something. We were like in 14th place, didn't think we had a chance to do anything. And the next day, I got on a pattern with those to where I could tell you where to throw that worm and catch them. We came in with almost 15. I mean, it was amazing, but it was all because of what Dion told me. I would have never thought about throwing that little worm.
I've known you a long time, long enough. I know one of your secrets that you do that no one else does. You're famous for taking a small jig head and putting a little critter crawl on it, fishing it by itself.
I fish that a lot.
See, and you'll do it out in deeper water.
Yep.
Fishing on main lake points, things like that. It's more of a finesse style of fishing that a lot of people don't do. Do you still do that?
Yep, still do it. I think it's kind of similar to the net rig.
Sure. Yep, that's not skirted, not anything else. Nope. Everything out there. But that's one. I also know that in the summertime on the bigger end of the lake, you like to fish big brush hogs, main lake points. You like to focus on breakwaters. You do some different stuff like that. Yep, you find those suspended fish. It's kind of cool. That's what stalkers do, by the way. We can't fish. We follow what other guys when they're catching fish, find out what they do.
This last year, I got into, after the spawn was over, going out on the points and throwing an 8-inch spoon. I mean, a big spoon. I mean, it works your arm.
Do you spoon fish on the Ozarks?
Do I?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't do it as much as I used to.
Do you use pork rind too?
Just because you kill a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's hard. For some reason, that big spoon, they want to swallow the whole damn thing, and you get a lot of troubles in their back, down in their throat, and so we kind of quit throwing it a lot.
Right.
But if I go out there and I struggle a little bit on one of them points and I can't make them bite anything else, oh yeah, I'll get it out, throw it a little bit. But like I say, in a tournament, I don't want to throw it all day long because you're gonna gut hook some of the bigger ones that you're gonna catch.
I think you lose a lot of fish on a big spoon. Yeah. They just pop off.
It's always bad about losing fish, but still, for some reason, you gut hook a lot of them, and so we throw a swim bait more when they're doing that type of stuff, because it seems like swim bait, they kind of sneak up on it and grab it, and you hook them better. But that big spoon's an awesome way to catch them. But
And that was probably an advantage when I was with the Water Patrol, out on the water every day. Got to talk to fishermen every day.
Yeah.
Knew where they were fishing. Knew what was going on. So I mean, that really kind of got me into it too.
And I'm really proud of ourselves because we have not mentioned anything about technology tonight, and we're not going to. But I also think that when you were in the Water Patrol, you got access to better technology of sonar before anybody else did.
Oh,
because way back, and this has nothing to do with fishing so much, but I remember when you guys would look for deceased people in the lake. That was when side imagery and that stuff had just first come out, and it opened up a whole new world for the Water Patrol to locate, people who had drowned.
Yeah, but that sonar is like $40,000, and it doesn't read from the surface. You actually drop it down in the water on a cable, and you're only 4 or 5 feet off of the bottom, and you run it, and you're right. I mean, if there's a drowned victim, it will actually draw out between their fingers. It's so clear. So,
but don't you think that some of that technology and it's been a while, and I'm not saying that you're old, but you're old because we're all old. But I mean, don't you think that some of that technology you can see in today's
absolutely
technology, what you saw 20 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely.
That stuff was
In a
out
smaller
there.
version, by all means. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see that. Plus, like you said, you get to roll around and talk to people. I'm sure you shake them down for fishing information.
have you not watched the commercial with Bill Dance jumping in the water and it taking his picture?
Yeah.
Come on.
Kinda. You think that was really Bill Dance, though?
I think
it was a stunt double.
No, it had a T on his hat. I mean, I'm sure it was him.
It must have been.
It was
That's
him.
what they always say. Do you know Jesus in the crowd because he's wearing the purple stash?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, that's no.
Well, the technology, and not to get into it big time, but the technology we have now is great. But I'll guarantee if you were on probably a United States submarine, you would not believe what they've got for sonar.
You think we're only getting just a little teaser while we're talking about this stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a nickel and they've got the dollar.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So you guys can't see it, and I probably can pull it up and show it to you here, but I want to show you a video, and I showed it to Dion earlier. We do a section called Angler of the Week. Do you have an angler that stands out to you this week that you want to shout out to?
No.
I know it's not Brian Maloney.
No, it's not Brian.
It's definitely not Brian. But I want to shout out. Do you agree that was pretty good, right?
That was pretty good.
So
yes.
there's a lot of profanity in it. I don't know this gentleman very well. I don't know him at all. I should say he's messaged me on Facebook a couple times. He watches our show, but I saw on Facebook, and his name is Taylor Daniel. Do you know him? You know the name?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Young kid. But if you guys go to Facebook, look up if you can access his page. Go to Taylor Daniel. I think that's his name. But I saw on Facebook he posted, I caught my personal best video to come. And this video, I was going to try to upload, I apologize. I'll try to get up later and put it on Facebook. But go to his Facebook page, Taylor Daniel, and he catches, his personal best was like 667 maybe, which is a great bass. But the video is hilarious. It's funny, but it's awesome at the same time. He's got, looks like 2 gals in the back seat. He's up front, he's pitching, he's got his GoPro up, and he hangs the big one, and he just goes, get the net, get the net. So the girls are scrambling, and they give him a net, and he's grabbing the net with one hand. It's like they're not going to help him. They hand him the net. So he's got this almost 7-pound bass on. He reaches down. He drops his net in the water. He gets the net back up. The girls are scrambling. He makes this backhanded net. He gets it in, and then he celebrates like he won the Classic. He's like, hell yeah! And he's like holding it up, and the girl's like, Taylor, that was awesome. And then he holds it from the camera, and he says, and I quote, "This is how you effing do it." And I thought to myself, this is how you effing do it. Dude, you dropped your net in the lake. That's not how you do it. But hats off to you. It was a super awesome video. Go check it out. It's very it's graphic, but it's hilarious. And I wanted to get it uploaded, but I'm still not smart enough how to use this crap yet. So I'm getting there. So hopefully next time we'll post it up. But that's my pick for the Angler of the Week. You had some 12-year-olds you fished with. You remember those kids?
Yeah.
Hats off to all of them, right?
Yeah. There was, I fished last Sunday in one of the youth tournaments here on the lake, and I boated with a 12-year-old Brody O'Neill, and great little old fisherman. You'll read about him someday, because, he's going to be, if he sticks with it, he'll be something to watch, because he is a lot of fun to be in the boat with. Super excited. Caught about a 5-pounder, and was powerful excited about it, and that just kind of renews your
faith
thought,
in the sport,
your thought process of, wow, this is really a cool sport.
Yep.
When you're out there in the boat with somebody like that gets really fired up. It's just like that boy you're talking about where he drops his net and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what this is all
He wasn't
about,
fishing a tournament, but he was
Yeah.
excited as if he had
Yeah,
won one
it
tournament.
wasn't-
Actually, it's just as
That's
good.
right.
As.
It was just as important to him as if he would have been fishing the Bassmasters Classic.
Yep,
So
we got really unfiltered the last couple of weeks, Jody, and we were really trashing today's younger tournament anglers. Just the way that they conduct themselves a little bit. So we kind of backed up. We're trying to find the good in it all this week, I guess. Don't want to, but do you have an opinion on that? Do you think let me ask you this real quick. Can you name 5 of the new current touring anglers?
No.
There you go.
No.
And that's why.
Yeah,
So
there's not a name that sticks out. They're all young kids, and I'm sure they're going to have great careers. But it's just a different style and a way of fishing than the old timers.
Yep.
That's my thought on that. But
Hey,
I will say this
just a
about some we're talking about
new
dip,
way.
Far away. Yeah,
dip
far
nets
away.
and fishing and so on.
Yeah.
If anybody happens to find a rod and reel going down the Gravoy's arm with a bass and he's got a jerkbait in its mouth, it does belong to Brian Maloney.
Oh, he did lose one?
We were fishing Angry Pirate Tournament, and we both
backing you up.
we
Okay.
both caught a fish at the same time. And he had a fish on, and he set his rod and the fish down on the bow of the boat to come back to net mine, which was a keeper and his wasn't. And we turned around, his fish, his lure, and his boat or his tackle was gone. So you happen to find it, you might give him a shout.
Nice. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good
We're going to
luck.
have him on now. I have to ask him to come on
Absolutely.
and see if we can get him on because I'm sure he'll pay back the compliments. So, no, and for those that don't know Brian Maloney, I mean, he's won some All-Americans, one or two.
Won
I
the
believe.
All-American,
He won an
yeah.
All-American. He's a great angler. He's fishing locally. I think he's freshly, and again, I'm not picking on him, he's freshly retired not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
So, so he's retired. He spent a little time on the water. So we'll probably see him hipping around a little bit. We can have a little chat about that. But
I think they just won a championship out at Grand Lake.
yeah,
really, last week we gave the Angler of the Week to Roger Fitzpatrick because we hadn't seen his name for a while.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of concerned about these new, freshly retired, good anglers in the sport because now they have time to fish, and I think we're going to see a resurgence in the Grand Paul winners. So, just my thoughts. I don't know.
There's a lot out there. I mean, there's a lot of good fishermen. I mean, there really are, and
Yeah.
and a lot of them put their time in. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Cole McFarland.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a tough fisherman. I mean, there's a lot of them. I can't name them all by any means, but what I see and who I fish against. I mean, there's a lot of tough fishermen.
Right.
Lawson's tough to beat. I mean, there's no doubt Dion's tough to beat. We can't even beat Dion when he's got his wife with him. She'll beat us.
Yeah.
I always beat Dion. It's all right.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's tough too.
yeah. You ain't beat Amy yet.
Yeah, she's tough.
We're going to have her on the show, too. You guys haven't had a joy until you meet Dion's wife.
That's right.
That's going to be a treat. Because, see, that'll be having the discussion about the angler's spouse. Because, see, they give a whole new side of when they get up early in the morning and leave. It's amazing the stories that they say they do. What they do when they're gone. It's crazy. I didn't realize what happened. It's nuts. But they're never really too happy with our performances when we come back, even if we win. I think for like 20 years, I told my now ex-wife that I said, I was always sponsored, even if I wasn't. It's like, this stuff is really expensive. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's sponsored. And that's when you learn to have the hidey hole money, right? We all have our hidey hole
that's it.
secret stash.
Yeah.
Yep, roll it back. Unless you're a pro like Dion and the money just rolls into the sponsorship. The rest
Oh,
of it,
yeah.
we have the hidey hole.
Yep.
So we got to pull out that secret 100, and do it that way. Or skim,
Well, sometimes my wife really wants to know if I'm fishing because I'm not bringing nothing home.
That's right. So 2 weeks from now, here in Missouri, we have the world's. I should say the world's. It probably is next to the Seeley's Big Bass Splash down in Texas. We have the Big Bass Bash up here in Missouri, which is probably the largest paying tournament here at the lake. Probably anywhere in the state of Missouri. Probably in the central United States, other than Texas. Right? Do you agree? It's up there, $100,000
Yep.
for one big fish. So it's time we start having this discussion. Let's kind of throw it out there. Oh, crystal ball. What's it going to take? What are you going to fish with? You going to fish it?
Guide.
You're a guide. You can't. You're a pro. You can't. I fish it every year, and I've never weighed because I can't. I've went. I tell you what. I'll tell you a story. A big bass bass story. I caught a 3-pound fish, and I got my scale out, and I weighed it, and it was 301. And I said, "Buddy, we're going."
Thought you're
I
on
said,
the money.
I'm going to be on the money. So I get there, and I think it pays what? It's $500 for an even fish money. So it's 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pounds, something like that. I'm guessing. You have to get the rules and find out.
3, 4.
So 3 and 4. So at the time I fished, it was 3. And I went up there and I asked the weighmaster. I said, "How you weigh it? With or without the bag?" He's like, "Without the bag." I said, "Okay." So I stood there a minute, And you reach in the bag, and I held it up, and I let a drip of water go off of it. And I'm like, that's right, because 301, right?
Perfect.
And it's perfect. I put it on the scale. It was 299. 299. And I went, I'm going home. I'm done. I'm just done. It's done. But I think we're going to see the lake is really low. I think we're still in that pre-spawn phase. I think the crappie are just now moving up to the bank. So my guess, the big bass bash is going to be one on a topwater bait. That's my guess. What do you think? And we're going to talk to Randy, the owner, one of the owners of the Big Bass Bash next week. Provided he shows up. When I talked to him on the phone, he says, I'm 80. I don't know if I'll remember or not to come. I'm like, geez. But so we'll see. But we'll ask him the same thing, some feedback. What do you think?
I think it'll be on a bottom bait. I'm going to say it's going to be around 7.2, 7.4.
Well, no, what kind of bait? I'm not talking about weights.
What kind of bait?
You said bottom bait. That puts you to a worm or brush hog,
I
creature
think somebody
bait.
might be throwing a wobbly head with one of those big craws on it. Just kind of working it, dragging it across.
Dang,
the
that's
bottom.
really specific.
That's specific.
Yeah.
Wobble head with a crawl body.
I
That's
would-
not
Yeah,
bad.
Yeah, I'm talking
Not
about the
bad.
the one that's got the big pinchers. It's made by Zoom. I can't even think the name of it. It's
Z Daddy, big
Speed
daddy,
Crawl.
speed
no,
crawl.
bigger, big, got big
Big
old
Z.
craws on it.
Huh.
Big old paddle tails in it.
I don't know.
Yeah, but that's
So
what I'd go
for those
with.
who are listening, it's some kind of a zoom bait. We really don't know what it is, but it's big. It's got some big claws on it. So
I'd have to
good
think
luck.
about it. Yeah,
what do you say, D?
Oh, it's going to be on a jig. That's my pick. It's always
The
my pick.
Hibden Hammer.
It's going to be a jig, and it will be bigger this spring than it has been ever before.
Will we break the 8-pound barrier, or
Yeah,
have we
I think
ever?
so.
I think so.
Think it'll be an 8-pounder?
There was an 890 caught by those kids last week.
Right.
I mean, that's
But you
almost
know-
a 9-pounder.
But you know that story. A blind hog will find a nut every now and then.
Lawson had one day last week where he caught 2 over 8.
Wow.
One day. So I just every now and then you have those years where there's some good ones.
Right.
I watched the whole BFL weigh in, and there was probably 30 6-pounders caught. And some of them a guy had one, but there was a lot of nice bass got caught.
Right.
And I really think this year is going to be one of them years where I think it'll take a 8-pounder.
Where it's going to show the true potential of this
Yeah.
lake. I mean, I've heard stories. There's 10-pounders out there. I've never seen one. I've seen photos. I've never seen them on the scale. You ever seen a 10-pounder on this lake?
legit. I saw one that was caught, but he had already had it mounted, and it weighed 10, 13. And he caught it off the point there at that island at the mouth of the Gravois on a live crawdad.
Live bait.
And I saw that in the early 80s. Otto Ingelsken was his name. I
Otto
believe.
Ingelsken.
Do you remember him?
He guided for my dad.
I've never heard that.
That's right.
He guided for
Wow.
for my dad. Yeah.
He had that on the wall at his
Yep.
house up there in the Gravois, and I saw it. Yeah, I used to fish with
Interesting.
him.
Otto skin?
Otto Ingelsken.
Ingleskin.
My dad was practicing for the first BASS that he ever won here, and right there on the docks just down from Kaufman's, I caught one that weighed 10 3/4. I was 12 years old. We packed it around in the boat all day long, and I told him, I said, we got to turn that fish back, and he says, no. He said, you can have it mounted. He says, I'll have it mounted for you. And I said, no. I said, what if you would catch that fish?
Mm-hmm.
And we took it back to the same dock, turned it loose, and since then, the Hibden bunch, between me, my sons, and my dad, we've caught 4 other 10-pounders between the whole bunch of us. Now that's 35 years and 4 very qualified anglers, and we've caught like 4 of them, out of the lake. So we caught 3 of them in 1 year.
Wow.
I was in the boat with 2 of them.
I can't share those great stories, but the one story I can share that I think I almost caught a big one. Here at Lake of the Ozarks. My dad and I lived, at one point, we lived 5 homes apart from each other on the water. So I had a dock down at the end. He was 5 houses up. We were in the same subdivision. And of an evening, we would go out and we would do, in the summer, we'd go popper fishing. We'd just take a little Rebel popper, the 2 of us, and spinning rods. We'd go and just catch little bass on the bank. Some fun stuff. We just, an evening with a beer, going fishing, being part of it, just not really doing anything, just having a good time. And when you do that, as you guys are aware, and this kind of spins back to the dock thing, you get to learn, meet people, talk, visit, because we're not serious fishing. We're just out having a good time. And one of the guys was, and if you guys know where my dad lives, if you go back to the cove, it kind of splits both ways, and there's a point right there. And the guy used to carve foam. It looked like people foam in the water. Mm-hmm. And so it was right there, and he's always got a bunch of stuff like all over the dock. And I'm not going to say his name on the podcast. I know exactly who it is. You guys probably know what I'm talking about.
I talked to him today.
Correct. To the left, there's a seawall that runs around to the next dock, and it kind of makes this nice little bend. And we were just like right in there, and we were chatting. He was crappie fishing, and I threw up my popper to hit the wall and bounced off in the water. We were having a conversation, and I just let it sit there. And we talked for 20, 30 seconds, and I look, and I reel it up, and I realize it's gone. And it's like under the boat and like gone. And when I set the hook on it, it immediately just, it's a big fish. And immediately turned back and swam back to the seawall. It went back under the boat, so I'm catching up with the line. I can't reel fast enough. And this fish jumped out of the water in full length. So I got to see the whole fish. And it hit the seawall. It jumped out and hit the seawall. And when it hit the seawall, the bait popped out. And he splashed in the water, big cascading deal, and swam away. And the guy on the bank says, that looked like a 10-pound bass. And then, of course, that's been 20 years ago. In my mind, it still seems like a big fish. That's the closest to a 10-pound bass I've ever been. But I never caught it, but I felt it for a minute. And I still think I caught a muskie in Cartwright Cove. So that's
the greatest big fish day
that got away.
Me and Dad and Jerry Cox, a real close friend of ours, and it's hanging in there on the wall, a replica of the one that I caught. We went to Sam Rayburn Lake to practice, just to go fishing and look around, because we'd never really fished the grass. We'd always been bush beaters. Went down there and fished in the bushes the whole time, and we decided, okay, we got 3 days of pre-practice. Let's run down there, learn the grass beds. First day, we go out, we don't catch a fish. We fished all day long, fishing out in the grass. We don't catch a bass. Well, needless to say, where everybody really made a mistake with Guido Hibden, they thought, well, this is the most patient fisherman ever. No. When my dad didn't catch him, he was done. He was ready to move on, and he says, all right, I'll give you till noon tomorrow. Needless to say, noon the next day, we've caught one fish by this time. And I'm like, come on, Dad, we drove, 800 miles to come down here so we could look around. I said, let's spend our time looking. I said, it's not the catching that's important. It's looking at these grass beds, figuring them out. The next morning we go out. Well, Jerry has always got a really nice camera with him. He was kind of an amateur photographer, really didn't take pictures of anything special, just he always had his camera with him. Well, needless to say, Dad catches a 10-something. As soon as we get out there, within 30 minutes of fishing, he catches a 10-pounder. Now, this is February on Sam Rayburn. And I said, okay, we still going home at noon? He said, yep, one fish ain't changing my mind. Needless to say, about 10 o'clock, he catches 11-pounder. And I'm like, holy crap, look at this. He's caught 2 double-digit fish. And I'm like, man, and I looked at Jerry Cox. I said, Cox, this is going to be a long trip home for our ass if we don't get something caught, I said, we are going to have to listen to him the whole way home. And at 12 o'clock, I caught the fish that we've got hanging on the wall in there, and it was 29 inches long and 28 inches around. At that time, we figured it was 13 and a half or something of that caliber. Now, mind you, we've only had 3 bites so far. 3 bites. A 10, 11, and a God knows
13.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And I told Dad, I said, we're not going home now. I said, we're staying till dark. And he says, well, you're driving home because I'm going home tonight. And I said, okay, that's fine. There's 3 of us. We can drive. We fish, and it's in the wintertime, so it gets dark about 5:30 or so. At 5:15, he says, I've got another one. And he wrestles this around, and the sun's going down, and Cox immediately gets out his camera. I get down, and I lip a 9-pounder. I mean, and it's a freaking 9-pounder. Now, the big one that we caught, we took all the dimensions off of it. We got our string and measured it and got all the strings and everything so we could have a replica made. Jerry took pictures of all sides of it and everything, and we turned them back. Needless to say, the 9-pounder, the sun's going down. It's the most beautiful picture that ever got taken of me and my dad. I had made a cast with a spinnerbait. I get down, get this 9-pounder. We take 4 or 5 pictures. When I pick up my spinnerbait, it's hung in the grass. I jerk it out of the grass, and I catch a 12-pounder.
Gosh.
Those 5 in one day. Never, ever, I mean, I've never heard of anything like that. Never have I ever seen anything like that. And the first day of the tournament, I pulled up on the spot where I caught the giant and kind of had to keep Gary Klein off of it. He wanted on the little point of grass really bad. And I caught 5 that weighed 29, and I was bitching the whole time. My partner's like, holy shit, you got a limit of 6-pounders. And I'm like, yeah, you should see what really lives here, you know. And Gary Klein had a picture of my bass that's hanging in there on the wall. He caught it the first day of practice.
Really?
Caught that same giant bass.
I think it says on the plaque 12-8.
3 weeks. No, it didn't have it.
That's your dad's fish.
That's Dad's.
That's dad's
yeah.
fish 12-8, yeah. Different fish.
No, mine's the really big one in there. But like I say, 3 weeks later, during the practice day of the tournament, Gary Klein caught the same fish because he had pictures of it, and I said, I got pictures of the same fish, and he's like, oh, bull crap.
Yep.
And I showed him my pictures and his, and same fish.
Wow.
I mean, just to a T.
Sad. You know what the really sad part is? Jody doesn't have a story like that.
No, my biggest one I've got here at the lake that I had mounted was 8.2.
That was with
That's
my
a good one, though.
my
That's a good
dad and my dad's best friend. And if either one of them would have told me the story, I'd have called them both liars.
Right.
That's how amazing it was to catch that 5 stringers, that stringer of 5.
Yeah. I lost my biggest fish there too, but all my stories about losing big fish, not catching them. Of course, I learned this year, actually it was last year, I did learn, and this is my tip of the day. You ready? Tip of the day, when you catch a giant, all right, big giant, and my tip of the day comes from him. I'm speaking vicariously through him because, and I've told this story before, I'm going to tell it again. Last year, fishing tournament, club tournament, and Dion says, hey, and it's one of those stories, it's like, you go, this is horse shit, but he said, I know where this big fish lives, and this is what you need to do. Take this bait, go to between these 2 docks, and throw it out there, and you'll get a good one. I mean, really. I mean, that's the biggest crap story I've ever heard. So we're fishing. We got a limit. We got like 12, 13 pounds, and it's okay. But we needed that kicker. I said, let's go to that dock. So I go to the dock. I tie on that bait. I throw it out there, and the Sierra Madre eats it. I mean, he does. I mean, he hangs it up, and he's so big, he's doing this head shake thing, and I'm like holding him, you know, and trying to turn him and this and that. He throws the bait off. And went back next day to the store, and I said, Dion, I caught that fish. I mean, it was actually, it was really there. You know, I was shocked that was the case, and you know, like, you are like the fish whisperer, you know, and he's like, nah, they're through there. He said, you know, they just where they stage up. And I was like, he was there. And I said, but I couldn't keep him on. And he said, dude, when you get a hog, you just crank on him, man. Don't ever let off the pressure. You just, it's not about the fun of the fight. It's getting him in the boat. He said, you can celebrate when you weigh him in. But if you can't celebrate until you weigh him in, he said, you crank on that handle and you don't ever let tension off and you just horse his ass on the boat and get done. So my tip of the week is when you hang one, you instinctively want to see him jump. You want to get him, you know, you want to play him, you want to do some stuff. But I'm telling you right now, if you want a paycheck, crank his ass on the boat. Any way possible.
Straight to the boat.
Straight to the boat.
Crank him in.
Swing him in,
Don't
drag
play.
him in. Don't worry about the net. Just horse his ass in there and be done. And then when you go up and take everybody's money, you can take pictures and celebrate and turn him loose. Right?
The biggest fish that Peyton ever caught out of the Lake of the Ozarks, we were catching them in Soap Creek, right straight across from your house over by Two Waters Resort. Mm-hmm. We pulled in there. My granddaughter is 6 years old. We catch one. We're catching, you know, between the 3 of us, we're catching one about every 3 or 4 casts, you know. and we're wearing my granddaughter's ass out. I mean, I'll hook a 4-pounder, I'll hand her the rod, and she'll wind it in. By the time she gets that one in, Peyton's got one, and we'll hand her the rod. Needless to say, Peyton throws out across the front of this little flat dock, and he says, "Oh, Piper, quick, land that one. Take this one." And she takes his rod, and she whines and she whines, and like I say, she's a 6-year-old little girl. She whines and she whines and she whines. "Oh, Papa, this one's whooping my butt. I can't do it." And I said, "Wind that son of a buck to the boat, you know." I pulled a Granny Stella on her. I said, "Pull that son of a bitch to the boat now, you know." And she just goes to pulling and a prying. And she said, "Oh, I can't get him." And she says, "Here, Dad, take the rod." And she hands the rod back to Peyton, and it weighed a little over 10 pounds. She had wound around on that thing for 3 or 4 minutes, you know, out there on a wiggle wart, and ended up catching it.
Hey, shh. We don't talk wiggle warts on the show.
Oh.
That's going to be later on, the unlocked secrets of the Lake of the Ozarks.
Oh, nobody throws a wiggle wart.
Disregard
here,
the wiggle warts. That doesn't. That did not happen. Disregard. So, we'll talk about that later, and we could probably have 2 or 3 episodes on how to fish a wiggle wart effectively.
And I don't like treble hooks.
Doesn't matter.
Hey, I know. I have to
It'd
be hard for me to go through a whole podcast talking about treble hooks.
No, but I can, because bar none, wiggle wart, best lure ever made, ever in the history of ever.
Oh no.
For crankbaits.
For crankbaits on Lake of the Ozarks, Table Rock, Bull Shoals. Yep, probably the number 1 crankbait on all those lakes.
You want to chime in on this, Water Pork?
About a crankbait?
Yeah.
About the wiggle wart?
Right.
I'm for them. Absolutely.
It's probably caught
do you
more
agree
than
that's the best
anywhere
one, or
else.
you got a better one?
No, I'd say that's the best one.
I mean, we can have this big argument, and they can all chime in online and say, "Oh, it's a rock crawler. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that."
Different wobble.
No, yeah, that's right.
Totally
You know
different
what?
wobble.
See, and I gotta say, we're an hour and 11 minutes into this one already, so we're not going to get in the wiggle wart conversation, but we're going to have a wiggle wart conversation.
You know what?
'cause
You know what the number 1 selling
love wiggle warts.
number 1 selling hard bait at Bass Pro Shop is?
No,
1/2-ounce rattle trap.
that's
You know what the number 2 selling hard bait is in Bass Pro Shop
no.
of all time?
No.
A 1/4-ounce rattle trap.
But again, that's a whole different. You're talking nationwide.
Nationwide, but
Right.
we're talking. Guess what? This podcast is nationwide.
But you understand, and we talked about Rayburn. You can go to Rayburn when the grass was there back in 2000, early 2000s, and they probably sold 30,000
and here's
rattle
the crazy
traps
part
per
about it.
week down
It's
there.
not just a 1/2-ounce rattle trap, and it's not just a 1/4-ounce rattle trap. It's a chrome blue.
Chrome blue, chrome black.
That's it.
It's the same thing with the Bandit 300 with the crappie fishing. Chrome black, chrome blue, 2 number 1 sellers on crankbaits out there on that cast and retrieve market. It's definitely, that's industry news there, but that's straight up. Good friend of ours, Jim Lovin, which I've hounded to get on the show. He's going to come on the show. Going to get him on the show, and we talk industry stuff a lot. And he said, "I noticed that you don't carry 80 colors of Bandit 300s." And I said, "Right." And he said, "What's the 2 best sellers you have?" And I said, "2." "Why'd you ask for 2?" I said, "Why didn't you ask for 6?" I said, "Because you already know what they are." I said, "It's black and chrome, black and blue." And he's like, "Well, I've kind of noticed that because he reps a company that sells crankbaits." And he's like, I go out and I canvass these stores, and he said it's the same thing. Rattle traps, trolling baits, all those that have that specific information that's black and chrome, black and blue. He's like, "Why?" And I said, "Because that's the one that catches fish." It goes to that same story. It's like Zoom makes 750 colors of baits. 6 work on your lake. Anywhere in the country.
One works everywhere.
Green pumpkin.
Black
Black and blue. And we have but that's, they always, I loved back in the day, there was an outdoor writer by the name of Homer Circle. And Homer wrote in Bassmasters for years and years. And I think he wrote until he was damn near 90. But he would always say if you had one worm, one bait, it was always a black worm. Black worm, green worm, and he always explained, and he waded rivers, he did that stuff, he was, really an idol in my opinion as far as a guy who knew where fish lived, and that's something that we talk about a lot. I don't mean to talk past you because, you can get in this conversation at all, but, Dion uses a term, and I love using this term too, it's knowing where fish live. You know, today's technology allows you to find fish without patterning, but we still focus on patterning and learning. You know, and we want to share this on our podcast. And Homer is one of those guys that he thought like a fish. You know, he kind of just studied them, and we're big fish. I was always told that big fish don't get big by being dumb. You know, and there's a lot behind that. And I didn't know that until a guy came in the store, and I'll make it really quick, and then we'll let everybody do our shameless plug, and we'll shut it down. But guy came in the store, he caught a 4-pound crappie. It was a monster. And, I mean, he had it alive. He wanted to check it. I mean, it was an awesome fish. I mean, it really was. And I said, let's take it to Bass Pro. Let's take it and donate it to the aquarium. So we make this phone call. I'd never done it before. And I was like, yeah, take it to Springfield. Those that don't know, that the Springfield store in Missouri, their master store, there's another building off that used to be an old Zenith TV plant. And it's like 4 city blocks. It's huge. And that's where they keep their fixtures, store displays. They ship in things in and out. That's where they distribute to other stores. But in the back of it is where their conservationists and their biologists all stay, and they raise these fish and put them in all their aquariums all over the country. If you knew that
I didn't know that.
Yep. So, and it's not open to the public. It's very, very private. But we got arrangements. We got there. We came in there. They took this fish. They did a phytoplankton study. They checked the gills, see if it's a Lake of the Ozarks fish. You know, they look at the biology of the gills. They put it in quarantine. And while I'm standing there, I look over, and it looks like, I don't know, above ground pools, but they're about 5 foot tall and about 30 foot round. And there's tarpon in that one, and there's, you know, walleye in that one, and then over here, they're all 10-pound bass. And they're monsters. And there's about a 10-foot whistle down the middle. It's a black pipe. It's probably about 2 foot in diameter, round. When I would go over to look at the fish, they'd all swim around the backside. And when I walk on the other side, see them, they swim around the other side. And it made me realize that day, big fish don't get big by being dumb. They knew what I was doing. They knew I was trying to take a look, and they didn't want me to look. And they all just rolled around. It was like 10 of them. And they herded like cattle. And it makes me always think about that when I come up on a lay-down log or present myself to fish. You know, it's like, he could be on this side, but he probably swam around the backside. You know, because he saw me coming or heard me coming or whatever. And it doesn't work, but it makes me think about it a lot. So that's... I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's kind of a cool story.
It's pretty crazy how smart they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we can all, they're, you know, they got the brain the size of a pea. Well, by golly, they use it well. I mean, because they don't, it's just, there's sometimes, they're stupid. You know, we're all that away. You know, you get the wrong time of the year, we all get a little ignorant. But bass are really, they're a lot smarter than we give them credit a lot of times. You know, and like I say, might have brain size of a pea, but they use every little dab of it.
Gotcha. So, Jody, shameless plug. Anybody you want to promote yourself, otherwise?
No, not off the top of my head. I want to say about the fishermen, though, out of all the boating that goes on, the fishermen are actually probably the safest on the water because they have to wear a life jacket, have to have a kill switch. You know, but the only bad part about it is when they're involved in an accident, they're probably the most serious because it's a low-profile boat and there's not a cockpit or anything you're actually sitting in besides that little console.
Not much protection.
No, and that's, you know, it's out of the boating industry of everybody that I know. I mean, I just feel like they're the safest because they have to wear the life jacket. They always do, you know, compared to other people. And Dion, I was going to ask him, have you saw the new supposed Evinrude motor that's came out?
No.
They came out with a new one. I think it's called Rotex.
No, it's Rotax.
Rotax?
Yep. Haven't seen it yet. That's been kind of in the talks for a while. Is it a hybrid?
There is a few here at the lake. It is underwater.
Right. No, that's been out, but it's only available on Bombardier built boats.
Yeah.
So it's their own brand boats. I have seen those. They've been out for about 3 years actually.
They've been out that long?
Yeah, they've been around that. Yep,
I
sure
just
have.
found out about one the other day. So I was thinking,
I mean, here we go again. I'm gonna have to get another beer out, but it's like bourbon tonight. You know, I have too much stuff to do tonight. I have to work later, so I want beer. But we can have this conversation. Dion and I still theorize that things are still to come from Evinrude. We still do. And you were with them for a long, long time, and I know you don't. I'm assuming you just don't have a relationship with them anymore, do you? Or do you?
Nobody does.
Yeah, they're all gone, but they didn't sell the name. They They just shut it down, and they are Bombardier, excuse me, are probably one of the most, I don't know how you'd say it,
Trains, planes,
rich,
trains, planes. They move.
They can
people.
capitalize. I mean,
Yeah.
they build like billion-dollar rail systems.
Yes.
I mean, and I think what they did is those guys looked at this and they went, nope, and they just shut it off and they said, design me the perfect motor. And I think we're going to see down the road. I don't think it's going to be electric. I think it might be a hybrid, like an electric mix. But Dion and I have talked about this in the past a lot, that the Rotax motor is a great design.
It's a two-stroke.
And it's a two-stroke. And I think you're going to see some development down the line. I think you're going to see that name come back. I don't know when, but we both theorize I think that's going to happen.
I've had two of them in four-wheelers. Mm-hmm. They put them in their four-wheelers. They're the baddest four-wheelers ever built. I mean, that's the crazy thing about them. They're, super fast, super strong, first crack out of the box. And I mean, that's not racing ones. That's just ones that you can buy to go work on the farm. That engine it's foolproof. I mean, it really is. It's a heck of a deal. Now, like I say, if they can figure out how to get it on the back of a bass boat, that's another situation. But, because bass fishermen are weird, they got to go fast.
Well, the way this thing looks like it's designed, if you were to hit something, it'd probably rip it all the way off of the boat.
They want to go fast twice.
Yeah.
Taking off and going back.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't want to go fast in between.
I go fast all the time.
I know. That's the difference of opinion. Do you like going fast too? You like ripping and getting?
Yeah.
Nah. I still live by the Guido rule. I said you got to make it home.
Oh, I do.
Because he gave you a lot of crap when he was alive. He's like, you didn't take care of your boats as well as he did.
I'm safe.
You broke stuff.
I'm safe, but I'm in a hurry.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like it's your office, man. You got to take care of your office.
My wife tells me I'm insanely fast.
Insanely fast. Now I've seen some of your buddies
that
jump wakes and
don't throw that into the wrong context.
No.
I'm insanely fast when I'm in the boat.
We're relatively clean tonight.
I know.
Relatively.
It's kind of weird.
Relatively, yeah. But it's
like,
it'll all break loose another night. Must be tired. It's the weather. It's all rainy and nasty
Jody
here.
Yeah, that's it. Preacher Jody.
I don't
Preacher
get it,
Jody.
Damn,
drinking his beer.
It's been really straight.
Oh man, I don't know.
No, that's the only plug I had about the fisherman, though.
You don't want to throw out your number there for guide work or anything like that?
No, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm retired and
referral only. So no.
He's guiding exactly the amount he wants to.
I take it back. He's not a guide.
I actually run into his son more now than I did fishing. He's
that means you're fishing the same. Always golfing.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Sure.
The other
he's
son.
not casting. He's swinging.
Gotcha. You want to plug anything, D?
I don't say enough about Lawson's got in with a little company called Bojangles, and it's really doing good. They're making tackle to catch fish with. A lot of tackle out there in the industry is made for catching fishermen, and this kid's really working hard at making just good fishing equipment. Stuff to catch a bass on, and they're coming up with some great laminated colors and different baits and. Right now, like I say, he's making the right lures to catch fish, so yeah, Bojangles this week.
And I would add to that, don't be mistaken if a small hometown manufacturer in your area doesn't make 55 styles of baits.
Sure.
They're going to make the right baits.
Yeah.
They're going to make the ones that work for you on your waterway.
That's what they're doing. They're making the stuff that you need to fish with. They're not trying to sell you, special stuff. They're selling you the stuff you need to go catch a bass with, and like I say, and the right colors.
That's right.
A lot of these companies get away from, using their fishermen really, really well. And like I say, sometimes these smaller companies make really nice stuff, and it's because they use their fishermen, and they listen to them and they make the right colors and make the right, kind of lure selection and everything. And they're doing a great job right now.
Yeah, I've been over there. He's got a great setup.
Sure.
He does.
I mean, it's small. It's mom and pop. It's.
But with today's, and not getting politics, not going to get really deep into it, but with today's rising inflation cost, by the time you pay shipping costs, by the time you go to the big box stores, and I'm going to say, the industry's kind of lackluster. It takes the mom and pop guys and then the guys on the ground. They're the ones that are really your developers of new tackle. And what happens is they come up with something really cool, and everyone in the region uses it. And next thing you know, Zoom's knocking you off. And I'm not saying Zoom's knocking you off. Don't get sued about that. But I'm saying a bigger company will take that and feed off of it and keep going.
Don't forget I came up with the Gito bug.
Who did?
I did.
No, I get that.
And
we can have that conversation.
It's been knocked off 10,000 times.
That's right. But I mean, you want to have an argument tonight, or it's like
no,
you didn't invent the crawdad.
Huh?
You didn't invent the plastic crawdad.
Well, I did that one.
That one, yes, which was phenomenal.
Which other one's important?
And do you know
which other rubber crawdads is important?
I said we're not having an argument tonight, but I will say.
Well, we can.
I will say
you're going to be wrong.
I'm going to have change shirts, though, white and black.
The most sought after emails we get on Ask Real Talk, which is askrealtalk@gmail.com, is where can I still buy Gito bugs? And they're not available anymore, are they?
Well, yeah.
Where?
Ledge Rock Lures.
Ledge Rock Lures. See? No, don't worry about the shameless plug. We'll talk about Bojangles all night. But by the way, the most sought after question is where do I get a Gito bug?
We're gonna
Ledge Rock Lures. There you go.
Bojangles is gonna make one too.
But they still don't make that really cool green melon that we all like.
Well,
you know the one. No, I've had them.
You don't
My
have
stock
them
is
yet,
out.
but yes,
yeah.
I do have them.
No, but you don't have them for sale to the general public.
Well, how can I have any advantage if I don't keep some of that stuff for myself?
You invented the damn things. You poured them out of plaster. Make some. Get in the garage. Get busy.
Oh, I will.
Bitch out of the mold.
I will. I'm just
the original. By the way, the original mold had darning needle where you pulled the threads through. It had living rubber in it. It was really cool. I still have some of those. I have a glow one, by the way.
I don't think a good fisherman ever gives up his best secrets.
I don't mind giving them up too bad, but. Yeah,
but not on national product.
Yeah,
right.
Just not tonight. I mean, I will eventually.
Every once in a while, yeah. But anyway, so Gito Bug's a great boat. I agree, but
Bojangles is going to have one, and Ledge Rock Lures has one.
There you go.
Right now.
See, okay, there you go. I'm just there. So we've answered questions from our email. So if you have a subject matter you want to talk about, you want to give us a shout. You want to complain? We're not going to listen to the complaints, but we'll sure read them on the email.
Yeah.
We might talk about them later. But it's askrealtalk@gmail.com. We're an hour and 27 minutes in. I think we're probably have talked about all we need to talk about tonight, don't you?
That sounds good to me.
So I want to thank everybody in the crowd tonight for coming and seeing us, and everybody on Facebook Live. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Buzzsprout. We'll have these uploaded in the next couple of days, and stay tuned. Next week, we are planning to have Mr. Randy Terrell from the Big Bass Bash organization to come in and talk about his upcoming events, but he's got a good story, too. I don't know if anybody has known how he got started and what was about how the Big Bass Bash started, which is I find it really fascinating. I don't think people even know how it really started. But we'll talk about that a little bit next week, and we want to thank Jody Hughes for coming on. You were okay. It was okay.
Been a long time since
Hope
I've had to do
hope to have
something
you
like
back on. We'll get a little more alcohol in you. Maybe have your wife on, and we'll talk about a little more detailed of it. But love to have you back. Maybe have you back with some of your fishing buddies, and you can talk a little trash.
Yeah, we can do that.
Maybe we could co-host you with Brian.
Oh, that'd be good.
I don't know if we have enough room at the table. We had to expand our studio to 4 seats and have to get another crappy microphone to use. But other than that, pleasure to have you. We really appreciate you coming. And thanks again for everybody watching. And we'll see you next week here on Real Unfiltered Talk. Thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it. And we're almost off the air. Now we're done. Good night, everybody.
Hey, I have a story. I don't know if he was a bass fisherman or not.